you know, it's still pretty thin, so it's not that bad.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are new here, my name is Andrea. I'm a New York State licensed acupuncturist and I would love to teach you all about Chinese medicine. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to go over some of the tools of our trade. So of course that means needles, but that'll also include things like cups, gua sha tools, Moxibustion, what else I have here? Electrical stimulation, some liniments. Those are the things that I use most frequently within my practice. Of course, these are not the only tools. There are several more out there, but I think these are the ones that you'll probably come into the most contact with in your experience with acupuncture. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, let's get right to it.
Okay, so I thought we would kind of move forward with this video by doing things a little more like vlog style so you can actually see all of the needles and the tools that we use. Just bear with me here, I do have a new microphone and I realized after purchasing it and trying to plug it into my camera today that my camera is actually not compatible with an external mic. So I am using my phone. It does have a little bit of trouble focusing, so just bear with me on that. Also, please don't judge my nails. It's been a minute and a half since I have gone and gotten a manicure. So my cuticles look like crap, and I tried to like cover up how bad my nails are with these like press-on things I found in Target. They're pretty cute though, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit impressed. But anyway, enough about my nails and on to the needles. So these are the brands that I use. Now there are several different types of brands and each of them are also like made kind of differently. So for example, this brand is just pretty standard stainless steel needles and these are in individual blister packs. You'll have one what we call a guide tube, which I can show you what the guide tube is in just a second. Let's see, open this. So this plastic piece outside here is a guide tube, and then you have the needle that rests inside of it. And you might see that some acupuncturists will have kind of like a blister pack that has several needles and then one guide tube. It's okay for these to be reused, but the needles never get reused. So you could see, obviously that's very, very small. The needles that we use, like the thickness, I mean, you can hardly, I mean, it's literally about like the width of a hair, and they're very flexible. Okay, and what we do is we use the guide tube to just basically get the needle in through the skin. So when we're ready, we place that on the point and then tap this in, and then the needle is ready to go, and we can manipulate it and do whatever we must from there. This is probably the size that I use the most frequently. I'm gonna just put this down. Don't worry, this is going in a biohazard container when I'm done recording. This here, so this is actually a little bit thicker, and I tend to use these if I'm doing like trigger point dry needling or anything that, you know, kind of need to grip onto the muscle, for example. And so these, I mean, you're barely going to be able to tell, but these are a bit thicker. You can kind of see there. And then lastly, I have some longer ones here. So this is the same width as the second one here that I pulled out, but it is longer. So I might use this if I'm trying to reach like a deeper muscle. You know, if I'm working in somebody's glutes, for example, there's a lot of fascia to go through in order to get to those deeper muscles, and so you would use a longer needle. Now, these back here are especially long, and again, these I use on actually pretty rare occasion because, like, as you can tell, this is a pretty large needle. But like I said, I don't use this very often. This is really more for if I have to get someplace especially deep, like if I'm working with your psoas. It attaches to your lumbar vertebrae, but in order to reach it, you actually have to go through the front of the body. And so you can imagine to go from the front to the back to get this muscle, you're going to need something kind of long. But, you know, again, these are on rare occasion. I think these will expire probably before I even get through them all. And now the two different brands I have here, I was starting to talk a little about it before, and then I think I totally just like jumped off that train of thought. The different brands of needles do offer different sort of like aspects. So these needles here are basically just like stainless steel. There's again nothing fancy to them. These here are actually, I do use these, or this brand rather. Let me see if I can. There we go. So I do use this brand for very specific points. So These longer ones, again, I use to get to particularly deep muscles if I have to. These smaller ones, they're actually the same size as that first needle I showed you. Actually, I'm sorry, these are a little bit shorter, but they're the same width as this needle here. I will use these needles. Actually, I'm doing what we call Jing Well points. These are points that are around the nail bed on your fingers and on your toes. And what's nice about this type of needle is that, not that anybody could tell, but the like the shaft of the needle is actually a little bit rougher than these, than this other brand here. So these go in a little bit smoother than these will. But the reason why having something a little rougher can actually be helpful is because there's certain times when you are needling and you actually want the needle to kind of grip onto the fascia a little bit. And these are actually very good at doing that. So again, I can use a thicker needle, like I was mentioning before, like when I do my trigger point. But obviously you don't want like a super thick needle to go into this area where there's obviously not a lot of meat there, so you don't want something thick really going into these points here. So I have a smaller needle, but it has, again, like the way the needle itself is built is a little different. Now, there are also types of needles out there. For example, a brand called Sarin, which I don't have any here, but I'll put up a picture. What's nice about those is that they're actually coated in silicone, so that those are super seamless and they glide in and out of the skin really easily, painlessly, and effortlessly. So those types of needles are good for doing facial acupuncture, for example, or if somebody is particularly needle sensitive. The only backdraw to them, obviously, is, like I said, they are coated in silicone, and some people do have a minor allergy to that. The different brands and different types of needles obviously all have their pluses and minuses. You know, there's different reasons why we would use some over the other. And that's kind of your basics on needles.
Another tool that I forgot to mention while I was recording this earlier are ear seeds. Ear seeds are a small bead stuck to what looks like a band-aid, and they're used to apply acupressure. Now, these can be used throughout the entire body, but as the name suggests, we most frequently use them on the ears. And the reason for this is because you can access the entire body through the ear. We use points that are associated with your complaint, and whenever you're having a flare-up, you massage your ears, and this applies acupressure, which helps to alleviate your symptoms. Now, this is an incredibly useful technique for addiction. There's actually an entire protocol called the NADA protocol that is used to treat anything from drug addiction to aiding in weight loss. So say, for example, you're trying to quit smoking. There are a series of points that we would apply to the ear, and anytime you're craving a cigarette, you would massage those points, and it would help to quell the craving and therefore help you to break your addiction.
All right, next on our list is Moxa. What Moxa is if I can zoom in enough, that gold stuff that you see in the middle there, that's Moxa. It's an herb, and what we do is we actually burn this on the skin. Don't worry, we don't burn you. But by burning it, we take the energy of the Moxa and help bring it into the body. So Moxa acts similarly to how a needle does, in that both the Moxa and the needle will activate the acupuncture points. But generally speaking, we'll use needles if we're looking to really get things moving through the body, and we'll use Mox when we're looking to strengthen something. And like I said, this is not the only way that you'll see it. What you'll most frequently see is what we call loose Moxa. So it just kind of looks like a big pile of this like golden cottony kind of stuff. And what you can do is there's different ways that you can form it. Many acupuncturists will do what's called rice grain moxa. But basically you take this loose stuff, you take two wooden boards and kind of rub them together, and it forms these long, sort of like thin strips, and then you pick off little pieces that are about the size of a grain of rice, place it on the point, light it with an incense stick, and once it gets hot, you tap it out, and then you do the next one for, however many we call a cone that's required.
Another form of moxa that you may be familiar with is what's called pyramid moxa, and that's when you take the loose moxa and you form it in the shape of a pyramid, go figure, and you apply that to the skin. It's much larger than the rice grain moxa. I like to apply it to the major joints, so for example, your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your elbows, and it's a really good way to treat joint pain and conditions like arthritis. As this moxa burns, you get this very broad but very deep and sort of penetrating warmth, and helps to really increase blood flow through the area, and of course that warmth is also going to be very soothing.
But this here, this is what I use most frequently. This is called Ibuki Moxa. What that means is that it's a stick-on. So these pieces literally, so that on the bottom there is basically like a sticker, and I can just stick it to the point. What we'll do is I just, I'll just stick it to my finger. We light that, without lighting your finger on fire, and then flick out the flame. There you go. So it's left smoldering. I don't know if you can see, kind of like an incense stick. But then what we do is we place that on the point and we let it do its thing. As that burns, it'll start to feel warm. And then once it starts to feel hot, or if it starts to feel pinchy or like a little sharp or just uncomfortable at all, I don't want to take this off because it feels so nice. But what you do is you take that off, and then I will drop it in my little handy dandy of water here just to put the smoke out. I will say, if you do this at home, if your acupuncturist has given you moxa homework to do, either put it in the moxa that's all done. If you have like a metal bowl is obviously the best to do. If you are going to use something ceramic to put the moxa in, if it once you're done using it, definitely put some water in there, because I made the mistake of not doing that once, and the moxa literally cracked the bowl clear in half. So this does burn pretty hot. And what's nice about this moxa, let's see if I have a new box here. Let's see if I can pull out the piece. Here we go. So what this comes with are these little styrofoam pieces. So these as well will just kind of stick onto the point, and you'll see that it actually breaks apart. So if you're burning these and you're noticing that like it's barely burning down and it already feels like it's too hot or too intense, what you can do is you actually place that over the point, and it creates a little barrier, and then you put that on top like that. And if it still feels like it's too hot, then you can put this little piece in the middle there, so that again you have an even thicker barrier now, and then you place that on top. Depending on what point you're doing, may change how you're applying the moxa. So for example, to do anything on the belly button is actually contraindicated. We will never do needling or direct moxa on the belly button, but what you can do instead is use you can fill the belly button with salt, or sometimes you'll use a slice of ginger. Then you would burn moxa on top, and that's actually really good for digestion. And I actually will give this to my patients a lot because it is so easy to use. This is something that is actually readily accessible. You don't need an acupuncture license or anything to purchase this. Obviously, I do not recommend purchasing it if you are not under the care of an acupuncturist who would guide you in, understanding what point you should be doing, how many cones you need to do, why you're doing that point, if there's a specific time of day that's important. Again, all of those are very important factors when we are, we're working with your body's energy. So another way that you might see moxa being done is in what's called a tiger warmer or a lion warmer. So this is a tiger warmer, and a lion warmer is basically the same thing, just bigger. And what it is the moxa is like compacted into these like tight little, like they basically look like incense sticks. And it's not this isn't like the best quality moxa, so this isn't something that I would use directly on somebody, but this is a way of doing more indirect moxa. You may be familiar with pole moxa. Pole moxa is again just like an even bigger version of this, and what they do is they just light the top of it and you just hover it over the channels, and it's used to kind of just work with warming and getting movement through the entire channel. So again, this gets lit. All right, that's not quite catching right now, but anyway, you get the idea. You light it, and from there, did it light? No, it definitely didn't. And then you actually place this over the top of it, and then you can see there's a little spring here, so I can control sort of how close that source of warmth is to the top of this. And what that does is it actually heats up this, and then I can use that on top of the skin. One thing that's actually really nice to use with this is I'll actually use this on somebody's ears. If they are coming in and they are particularly stressed out, or if they're really nervous about getting acupuncture, you use this to kind of trace along the cartilage in your ear, and it's so relaxing. But yeah, that's another version of moxa. Hey friends, so I realized while I was editing this that this video is turning out to be incredibly long, so I'm going to pause it here and I will see you guys in part 2.